I've got no idea what I want to say, really. Well, yes. Well, my name is Rufus Graham, and I'm playing the role of Soho John in Girls Strike Back. So I'm the gangster boss, and I was asked to be a bit posh because I was supposed to be in charge and the posh gangster, and my henchman Jason is the rough Cockney gangster. But I felt in the writing of the script there was quite a lot of demotic speech in it, and I found myself really learning Cockney or getting my Cockney a bit better, and working on the script in Cockney because it sounded right in Cockney. In the end result, I think we found in the scenes we shot today a suitable compromise in that. I have a feeling that Soho John has feet of clay, and he's learned through having money to be the posh. He's not a crude imitation. He's actually rather good at picking things up, and when he loses his rag, just as when I lose my rag, I revert to my native Scottish. When he loses his rag, he reverts to his Cockney, and he gets angry in Cockney, and then comes back to what his intelligence and native wit allow him to express in a slightly more refined manner. He's self-educated, but he's educated himself. He's not self-educated and ignorant.
So what's his motivation? What's he wanting to achieve?
Oh, I would need... I probably would need to know a bit more about the script to know that. He's a gangster, after all. He's a criminal. He's a bit of a psycho. So
he's like a banker.
Well, he certainly is motivated by greed, yes. But he's motivated by power, and to a certain extent, you could say he hasn't got any motivation at all, because he behaves in the way he behaves because he behaves in the way he behaves. I don't think it matters very much to him whether he does harm or whether he does good, unless he subscribes for one reason or another to his favourite charity, whatever that might be, the Criminals Benevolent Fund.
So he's a bully that left school, never made it because he was a bully, but carried on in life and didn't get locked up. Most bullies end up getting locked up.
Yeah, well, that's quite possible that he always got away with it. Yeah, I haven't really thought far enough back to know whether he was a bully, a physical bully, at any rate.
He sounds like a bully, you know.
But he might be a bully.
Bullies the way out of the car.
Oh yes, right, well, there's certainly that underneath. So what I think he might have been. I mean, I really, because I haven't seen his other scenes, I do not know enough of the backstory that's in the script. But it would seem to me that he might not have been physically a bully, but he might have been, because he's clever, he would be an intimidatory kind of person. Yes, I do think he's a psychopath, yes, or something very, very close to that. And that, if anything, he was more bullied than bullying, and that his response is to become pretty cold. But that's perhaps reading too much into it. I need to know more about him, which I hope to...
So I was protected as a child, and so I protect others. So he probably was abused as a child, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Isn't recognised for its effect on society.
Yeah, well, that's what I would think too. I mean, I personally live nowadays in a rough area. I used to own two houses, one in France and one in Edinburgh, but now ever since I became an actor, I've been penniless, and I live in a council flat in New Cross. And I was at a tenants meeting the other day. I don't normally attend these because I don't enjoy them, but I was at a tenants meeting because the main subject was the decent homes improvements that are going on in our building, and the council is being very good with those, but there have been some hitches, and I know all the Labour councillors because I meet them at Labour Party meetings because I'm an active member. And afterwards I was chatting with them, and I said, all these confrontational people, and Councillor Jimmy sort of raised his eyes up to heaven because he's a civilized man who's used to dealing with civilized things. But I actually said in the meeting, when I was talking to the people who were handling all the works, I said, this is like a meeting with President Putin. It was very, very confrontational, and by the end of the meeting you could tell exactly who was going to say what. Now, what are these people? They were almost all of them white. In fact, the black ones were actually rather more civilized in the way they spoke. They all had hard faces, and I realized that, because I've been through hard times myself, that their entire lives, from when they became conscious of existence, was battling against people. And when they have meetings with the council, it's always somebody who's telling them what to do. I mean, I say telling them where to get off. They never have an easy time, and they expect to have someone who's trying to rip them off. And that, of course, is getting worse in the present climate. In my high street, Deptford High Street, there are 3 or 4 betting shops next door to each other. There are 8 in the immediate vicinity. There's a Poundland, which I buy things from, and another shop of the same kind, a pawnbroker called Mr. Fish, and he's right opposite a fishmonger who's called by a different name. I find that rather funny. But and all the high streets in this country under the present government are going that way. And it's tragic. And the people aren't having an easier time, so the next generation of those who care to breed are going to come up in the same climate or worse. I come from a middle-class background, as you can probably hear. This is my one of my natural accents, the other is Scottish. And
You were born in Scotland?
yes, I was born in Edinburgh.
And you became educated and became a businessman, was it?
And I became educated. I went to a very good school and a very good university, although that was in England. And I became a musician, a classical musician actually, and lived in France. That fizzled out in midlife, but I had a day job teaching English with a French bank and with the Ministry of Finance and in the law faculty, and which I didn't wholly enjoy. But I managed to keep myself, I won't say sane, but involved in life to some degree by becoming an elected trades union rep and in France, and I actually spent half of my working time on union activities. And the reason I was always put in an electable position on the list is the reason the people liked me was that in every department of the bank I worked in, there was in every room in the bank that I worked in, someone there who'd been a pupil of mine, and they would vouch for me to the people who didn't know me, because I went into a room which was full of people who followed the communist trades union. I was a socialist. They normally actually physically threw us out of the room, but I went in and somebody piped up and said, "This is my teacher," and I had his whole entire table. I never told them a lie, therefore they trusted me. Next time I went in, I was able to go through all 15 tables and talk to all of the people, and they were able to understand that we weren't the enemy. The boss was the enemy. One of my lines in the scene we shot today was, "He's not the enemy." You know, you get it wrong. One of the problems with the tenants' meeting is that people were at loggerheads, at hammers and tongs. They were fighting the wrong people. They were fighting the people who were on their side, the people who were putting in a lot of money, which taxpayers pay for and government pays for, to improve their building, and that the only thing they're able to do is complain. And the reason they're only able to do is complain is because they don't know anything other than complaining. Sorry, that's the trades unionists speaking again.
On the BBC Hard Talk, they interviewed a young man who mentioned anarchist communist philosophy, and that we'll get rid of government. Mm-hmm. And run our blocks ourselves.
Yeah.
But I don't think those people are up to that.
Well,
There's a tenants management organisation.
well, with No, they're not, and no. It requires a lot of experience and great skill to be able to run any kind of council activity or anything complicated, and they'd all be fighting each other, and they don't have enough native wit anyway, to be quite frank. My heart says.
So the Europeans are really peasants under the skin, do you think? Would you say that for Frenchmen as well?
Having lived in France for 28 years.
Are they really peasants? Because we're subsidising their big £20 a week in our extra food basket.
Yeah, well, that's, if the Brits had been a little less anti-continental and had gotten a little bit earlier, then the situation might be different. I'm not too sympathetic with the Brits, or at least with the English. My native country is very much more European orientated than England is, and something that I think is quite extraordinary, that with the Scottish referendum coming up, which is absolutely headline news all the time now in Scotland, is that the menace is that an independent Scotland would be the one that would not be allowed to be in the European Union, whereas England, which doesn't really want to be in the European Union and really has only wanted to take over colonies, but not be an equal partner with other equally civilized or more civilized people, they would like to be out of the Union. It's weird.
I don't think you lose your European status by becoming independent of
No, I don't think so.
You're still European. You haven't voted to veto the European Union, so you stay your membership. It just changes the name.
But that's what I think too. But yeah, I think they're lying too. And there's an awful lot of threats, and they don't go down very well north of the border because you're used to it. After I left France, I spent 4 years in Scotland, and during that period, I sort of gradually discovered what I was going to do next in my life. I didn't intend to become an actor. I was actually working out why my musical career had fizzled out. And also why I had problems with understanding literature. And I went to a lot of writing courses and things like that and got involved in the music again. And wherever I went, people would say to me, "Are you an actor?" And I thought, well, if it walks like an actor and it quacks like an actor, perhaps it is an actor. And that's why I came to study, to train in drama. But
Your voice.
Yeah.
Your voice is going to turn this film into a hit.
Really? I don't know. Yeah.
That power, without real anger.
Yeah.
That powerful voice, not screaming and really powerful.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
Place of real value.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I've never heard anything as good.
That's great. Well, thank you very much. Yes, but when I came down here, the thing that struck me the most, I found, although my father was English and he was Oxford educated like me, he was a sort of old-style colonial mentality person. He believed he was there to run the world, and that didn't go down very well in Scotland. But when I came down here from Scotland, and having lived on the continent for a long time, my feeling was, first of all, there were about 36 social classes in England, and everybody was trying to behave about 3 social classes above the one that they were situated in at that particular time in their lives. And that unless a Scottish First Minister actually dropped dead, you wouldn't even know that Scotland existed through reading the newspapers. It's a bit different now, I'm very glad to say. It was quite strange. It was a bit of a culture shock. And now, of course, not just Scotland, but the other countries of the United Kingdom and the regions are much better represented, as are their accents, which are now becoming mainstream, and it's making the life in broadcast media, at any rate, much more colourful, much more interesting. And there's much more cultural input from different sources, including from immigrants.